today we are mastering the art of homemade pizza. It is casual pizza night in our house. Pizza doesn't have to be a thing. It can be really easy, and we're making it very easy tonight. We're gonna kick it off with homemade dough, and yes, you can do it. You don't need a mixer. It would be helpful, but you don't need one. And from there, you can turn this into whatever you want. But today we're doing a nice mushroom pizza with fresh basil. I already finished my wine. I'm not gonna tell you how many glasses I had. You can't have homemade pizza without pizza dough, and don't use the one from the store because I feel like that's just eating bread, like sweet bread. I don't know, something about it is just off. So I'm gonna show you how to make an easy pizza dough. This is very simple. I actually learned the base of this recipe from an Italian cookbook, so you know I'm not just making this up. It's not coming out of thin air, I promise. So the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna get some flour, and I'll put all the measurements in the description. And when you're measuring flour, you wanna make sure you're leveling off the cup, okay? That's a huge mistake that happens. And we're gonna sift it. I'm just using basic all-purpose flour. This is unbleached, you can use bleached. I'm not gonna go tell you to get bread flour, although it would be great. You don't have to do that. So let's just sift through it. To be honest, I'm not a sifting expert. I don't even know if I'm doing this right, but I do know that the Italian cookbook said to do it, so that is what we are doing. Next step, let's add some salt. Doing about 3/4 of a teaspoon. I just if I were you, I wouldn't load up on the salt, just be casual about the salt, you know? Okay, I accidentally dropped a whole peppercorn in there. That would have been a surprise. And I like to give it a whisk. So we got our flour and our salt here. Now here's where yeast comes in. I feel like yeast is so scary. I'm scared of yeast. Like active dry yeast, I get a pit in my stomach just thinking about it. But good news for you. Let me get. If you're making this recipe and you're looking for the easy solution, you're gonna use instant yeast, okay? Don't even try it with active dry yeast because instant yeast is so much better. The difference between instant yeast and active dry yeast is that you don't have to activate instant yeast, you just add it right to your dry ingredients the same way you would with baking powder or baking soda, you just add it in. I find it to be so much easier. It's up to you what you decide to do here, but I definitely recommend having instant yeast on hand for pizzas, breads, everything that calls for yeast. Something you really should have, and not just for bread, this is something you'll use all the time, is an instant read thermometer. This is great for cooking proteins, for measuring the internal temp of basically any food. So get one because the temperature of your water is very important, especially with instant yeast. And a lot of people say go for lukewarm water. We're going for kind of hot water because instant yeast actually needs a higher temperature. So just trust me on this, okay? All right, we got flour, salt, yeast in here, and I have my water. My fridge is super cool and can measure the temperature of water, but this is why I recommend having a thermometer. Put the thermometer in the water and make sure it's a temperature between 120 and 130 Fahrenheit. So mine's at 126, that's perfect for instant yeast. Pour the water in to the bowl, and you're gonna see some bubbles happen. And I'm gonna get a spoon and incorporate it into the bowl. So we wanna make sure we are incorporating as much as we can during this period where the water is fresh into the dry ingredients. Okay, and now, this is the worst part, okay? Are you ready for the worst part? Which you can totally do this in a standing mixer, but not everyone has a standing mixer. It's not really affordable for everyone. So we're gonna knead by hand, which I suck at. So if I can do this, you can do this. And you're just gonna take this really, this looks like it's gonna be the body of Christ, like the Eucharist, you know? But we're gonna take it and we're gonna turn it in to pizza dough. Alexa, set a timer for 10 minutes. We're doing this for 10 minutes. So when you're kneading, you're just gonna wanna push with the back of your hand. So you're gonna take the dough, okay? Push with the back of your hand, like this. Fold it on itself, push with the back of your hand, rotate, fold it on itself. So like this. And it should feel a little bouncy. It should not be fighting you. I can't stress that enough. If it's fighting you, put it back in your bowl, add a little more water. Mine's starting to feel nice and elastic. I'm also turning bright red because I'm hot, because this is difficult. This is much more like it. Okay. Always have a glass of wine to sip on. It's my motto. Always have wine in your back pocket. This is smooth, it feels nice and bouncy, and I can just tell, you're gonna know when it's done because it's just gonna feel like how you would imagine pizza dough. Our next step, we have our cute little dough ball. It's so sweet, and we're gonna let it rise. We're gonna let it grow up and live to its full potential. We're gonna put it in a bowl, so I just have a basic mixing bowl, and I'm gonna drizzle some olive oil in there, just around the edges. This just helps the bowl retain moisture while our baby grows up. Aw, so sweet. Just pop it in the center here. Take some cling wrap if you feel passionately against cling wrap like I do, and I'm sad that I'm using it right now. You could just put a towel over top, or I think they have some natural like wax types of cling wrap that you can put on top. The goal is to basically prevent any air from getting out, to trap the dough inside like this. And then I'm gonna put a towel over it as well, just for extra security. I don't want it to escape. I don't want any air to escape. And if you wanna expedite the process, you could get a towel a little bit damp and put it on top. We're cheating the system a little bit. It usually takes 3 hours to rise. Obviously, rise time depends on where you live. Maybe that wasn't obvious, because it actually isn't obvious at all. So the weather impacts how your dough will rise, because moisture and heat help yeast activate. Therefore, we want a warm climate. Let's create it on our own and kind of cheat. So I've preheated my oven to 450 degrees, and I'm gonna put my bowl of dough on top of the stove. And honestly, we want this to double in size. For me today, it's about 60 degrees. It took about an hour for that to happen. It could take less, it could take more for you, but try this because you're gonna cut some time out of the wait time. I know it's annoying, but as that rises, we're gonna cook some mushrooms, we're gonna get a little wine drunk, we're gonna like call our friends, we're gonna FaceTime our moms. It's gonna be great, so let's do that. As that rises, we are going to make our mushrooms. Nothing is worse, in my opinion, than putting raw mushrooms on a pizza, because they end up just soggy and sad. And I feel like soggy is never good unless it's like cereal. Cereal's great when it's soggy, but mushrooms aren't, you know? No matter what mushroom you're using, you're gonna wanna sear them. That's what we're doing. I have these super cool chestnut mushrooms because there's a farmer's market near here, and we're in Pennsylvania, which is like mushroom world. But if you can't find chestnut mushrooms, go for shiitakes. You can go with maitakes. You can go just baby bella, cremini, porcini. One of those is the same thing as baby bella. Like, what I'm trying to tell you is do what you want. That's the message here. Now I'm gonna cut these up. Get rid of the stem. I love mushrooms. A tip for any mushroom that you're gonna cook with, they retain so much moisture. So when you cook them, they're going to shrink a lot. So always have more mushrooms than you think you need. And any other toppings you want for the pizza, prepare them now. Your dough is rising. This is the time to get two things done at once. Hit two birds with one stone. We're gonna take it to the stove and sear these up. With these and any other mushroom, the process is gonna be the same. The cook time probably a little shorter or longer depending on what mushroom and the size, but follow this method for the perfect flavor. High heat on the pan. Get any skillet you want. I'm just using a stainless steel skillet. High heat, high heat. I'm gonna let that heat up for like a minute, and then we're gonna get some oil in here and really just get the shroom party started. Oh geez. Crazy, wild. We're gonna season it. Some olive oil, generous. We're gonna be so generous here. And let's get our mushrooms in there. You're not supposed to overcrowd your pan, but we are overcrowding it. These are gonna shrink down. It doesn't really matter. Okay. Never forget the salt, okay? Just a pinch right on top. I like to do a little more. Add salt to taste. You can start with a little bit, then you can add more. Nobody's forcing you to add a certain amount. It's up to you. That's what I need to tell you. It's up to you. And I'm adding some more oil. I don't want my mushrooms to dry out. Okay. You can see the surface area changing. The mushrooms are taking up less space. They are losing their moisture and kind of shriveling up a little bit. And that's what we want. Say no to the soggy mushrooms. You can add more flavor to your mushrooms. Isn't that amazing? Of course you can add herbs, season it however you want, but one of the things I love, and I think it goes so nicely with tomato sauce, is to deglaze with red wine or a vinegar, red wine vinegar, balsamic vinegar, sherry vinegar, but I just have this here, so let's add it in. The purpose of deglazing is to take those off and have them coat the food. It's gonna get nice and smoky. And we're gonna mix it up and kind of scrape those off the pan. Oh, these are gonna be so good. Oh my gosh. Okay. This is also a great way to get more moisture back into them so they are crispy on the outside and have a little bit of bite to them. These are about done. I don't wanna fry them up too bad. I just want them to have a lot of flavor. And of course, in order to see if they taste good, I'm gonna taste a small sacrificial mushroom. Woo! Love that. I'm gonna add a little more salt though. Okay. I'm gonna turn this off and let them hang out. We're gonna get to the rest of our pizza party. If you're making homemade sauce, now is your time to shine, and to do that, I'm gonna do something very controversial. So please don't send me hate messages after you watch this video. That's all I ask. That's all I ask. I'm not saying you have to do this. It's just like, I'm making the pizza the way I would on a lazy Friday night where I don't wanna do anything. It's time. We have our sauce. We got our cheese. It is time. It's the time we've been waiting for. Okay, you're gonna kill me. You're gonna kill me. Don't hang up the computer, phone, whatever you're watching this on. I'm using a store-bought sauce because I like this sauce. And guess what? I'm not gonna judge you if you make your own sauce or if you use a store-bought sauce. It's Friday night. I don't wanna do anything. I'm using a sauce I love. And that's what's great though, because you can use the sauce that you like. Even if you don't make it, your pizza's gonna be amazing. Now let's get to our crust. Have some flour on hand if you need it for your workspace in case your dough is sticking. It usually does, so just have it on hand. And then another thing that's super chefy is to use cornmeal. I don't have cornmeal, but I have polenta. I'm not gonna use it tonight, but I wanted to let you know you can put some polenta in a food processor, grind it up, and then put it on your workspace on top of the flour. Just have the bottom of your pizza crust absorb it, and you're gonna get that cornmeal-y pizza crust that you're probably used to from restaurants. Cornmeal is one of those things you don't realize that is a part of the pizza, but it usually is. All right, she's here, she is ready. The grand reveal, she is ready to rock. This has been about like 1.5 hours on the stove, like I said before, and not glamorous and beautiful, but does the trick. Now you should make sure that it's stretchy. Like, I wanna eat the dough. That's how I know I'm gonna wanna eat the pizza. Just a little tip here, and I can see all the bubbles. Yum! About 20 minutes ago, I put my pan, a large sheet pan. We're not getting fancy with a pizza stone. No one has those unless you're like a pizza enthusiast. We just have a large sheet pan in the oven. We want it to be hot so it kind of cooks the bottom of the crust to prevent it from getting soggy. So that's why we're doing that. Okay, now I'm just going to flatten her out. Just go like this. I'm not a pizza expert, just FYI, in case you're wondering. This is just how I make it. Okay, make sure the edges are all the same thickness. Those are gonna be the crust. So you obviously want all the same thickness throughout. And if you notice that one side of your crust is uneven, you can fold it over itself and push it in like this so that you're creating an even crust throughout. And then we're gonna roll it out anyway, so it should be fine. Okay. I'm gonna use a rolling pin. You can use a rolling pin or just keep using your hands, and I wanna get this as thin as possible. Of course, if you like thick, bready pizza crust, by all means, do your thing. And in between the roll, just move it around with your hands. Just trust yourself. If there's a hole in the crust, there's gonna be a hole in your pizza. Patch it up. If your crust feels uneven, it's gonna be uneven, and that's fine. And if it's delicious, it really doesn't matter. But just use your judgment. Okay, I've got this hot ass pan. HAP, hop, hop, hop. Cardi B is gonna write that song. Get a big sheet pan. You don't need a pizza stone. You don't need one. I keep reading these recipes telling me to buy this stone I'm gonna use like once. And I'm not for that, it's not for me. Okay, oil your pan. Don't forget to oil the pan. You don't want your pizza dough to stick, that would suck. Okay, get it nice and oily up in here. Get your dough and put it on the pan. This like barely fits. So just make sure you're getting a flat sheet pan, nothing with like too crazy of edges. I'm not gonna tell you to prick the pizza dough. We're just gonna go for it. Let's get our sauce. Just pour it in there. We're gonna use the back of a spoon just to spread it around like this. Obviously, however much sauce you like, use that much sauce. I will say using too much sauce might make it a little soggy. You wanna make sure your ratios are pretty decent, but this is your house. I'm not gonna tell you what to do. Now I have mozzarella pre-shredded. I'm the worst. You can shred it yourself. You can use any cheese you want. I'm the worst, I know. And I'm just gonna put it on here. Scatter it on. I don't wanna overdo it. I think this should be fine. And pop your mushrooms on here. If you have onions, you wanna add onion on here. Beautiful, you do it. That's the stuff. That's how you do it. And a final touch, you don't need a pastry brush. I was gonna show you how to do it with a pastry brush, but let's just not. Let's just put some oil on the crust, like a little bit of oil. Just use your hands to just like rub it in like this. And ta-da, we got a pizza! Okay, we're gonna put it in the oven. Are you excited? You better be excited, because if you're making a pizza right now, like, oh, why wouldn't you be excited? I don't know. Put it in the oven, let's cook it. Top rack or second to the top. Say goodbye to the pizza. Make sure it's in the middle. You want even heat here. And we're gonna close it up. Oh God, it's so good. It's a good day. There's the pizza. That looks so good. I'm gonna cry, it looks so good. And you can make this, like you can do it, and that's what's awesome. My crust is uneven and we don't really care about that. But if you do, don't worry. I'm gonna top it off with some fresh basil. I feel like all pizza needs fresh basil, but that's my personal preference. Do whatever makes you happy. We're gonna make it rain basil all over this bitch. Top it off, if you want, with a little fresh parm. Just a little bit, you don't need too much. she's a beaut. And I'm getting super restauranty, a little swirl of olive oil. And yes, I set up this whole little food styly thing because that's my job, you know it. I can't wait to dig into this. Those mushrooms look so good. I don't have a pizza cutter. I don't know if you do. If you do have a pizza cutter, congratulations, that's awesome. I'm gonna use this bench scraper chopper thing, and we're just gonna go in like this. You can also, of course, use a chef's knife. And one slice for me, one slice for my husband. See, this is how you don't feel guilty. You have one slice of pizza each, no problems. Here you go, that's it. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Goodbye. You can also use your chef's knife. If you're using a chef's knife, just make sure it's really sharp. And I waited like 10 minutes to cut this, so my cheese isn't super pulley right now, like stretchy. But obviously, if you want your cheese to be stretchy, cut it right away or give it a few minutes. Are we amazing or what? I'm so excited, not to shame Philly, but the pizza here isn't the same as it was in Italy or New York. I've been to both, and like my standards are very high. So I do choose to make my own pizza, and that's okay. Nowhere is gonna have as good a pizza as New York and Italy. And this does a really good job at scratching that pizza itch. Oh my God, look at it. Look at this. I think it's a perfect thickness for my liking. We've got some bubbles in there, but not too much. I'm a huge fan. And that's how you make homemade pizza. It's really not hard, it's not scary, and worst comes to worst, your crust isn't perfect, and you put cheese, sauce, and whatever else on it, and it tastes amazing. But let me know if you tried this recipe. You can tag me on Instagram, Dining with Skyler, and be sure to do all the things to follow the channel, and you know the drill. But I have to eat this now, okay? It's time. So thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Oh my God. Yes, that's so good.